Welcome to another episode of A Drink with John. I am coming to you from Rome this time, where it is almost 7:30 in the evening, so I've got a beer that I am enjoying. However, our guest is coming to us from Kansas City, Kansas, where it is only about 12:30, so it would be completely inappropriate to expect him to be rocking a beer. But listen, let me tell you folks the truth. This guest does not need to be fueled by alcohol to be intoxicating, because he is one of the most beguiling figures in the American Catholic hierarchy. We are joined today by Archbishop Joseph Naumann of the Archdiocese of Kansas City in Kansas. Now, I, of course, am a native of Kansas. I grew up in western Kansas, and I hold a degree from the University of Kansas. So, Archbishop, I hope you will not find it inappropriate if I greet you today by saying to you, Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
No, absolutely, John, and we're very proud that you're a son of Kansas. And I think, did you go to Thomas More Prep in Hayes?
I did, out there on the high plains of western Kansas, educated by the Capuchin Franciscans, and of course riding high with the Pope's announcement on Thursday of the beatification of Solanus Casey, wow. Who, as you know, was a Capuchin. Yes. And if he gets across the finish line, could be actually the first American-born male to become a saint in the United States. And I just think there would be something delicious if that happened to be a Capuchin.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been so many great people that have come out of Thomas More Prep, so you're one of their distinguished alums.
Yeah, it's hilarious because when I was there, Archbishop, I was known as a terror, okay? But now that I've gone on to do something with my life, all of a sudden, I have some utility for them. But listen, I mean, pretty much everything I know and everything I've done in life is due to the formation I had at Thomas More Prep and the Capuchins there. So God love them. This is why they're my favorite religious order. If they were willing to put up with me as an adolescent, then all of them should be beatified and canonized. Anyway, we didn't come together today to talk about my biography. You have been in the headlines recently, Archbishop, because you've made a decision that has generated some discussion, which is you recently made the decision to move the parishes of the Archdiocese of Kansas City in Kansas away from hosting troops of the Girl Scouts. Now, for a lot of people, I mean, the Girl Scouts are as American as mom and apple pie. And so, it probably seems to them incomprehensible, why you would have done this. Can you explain to us what the logic for this decision was?
Yeah, thanks, John. And you're right. The Girl Scouts are kind of an iconic institution, and it's certainly not one that I was relishing distancing ourselves from, but it's really been a process over several years. Our youth ministry office here has been in dialogue with the national leadership of Girl Scouts. We've had increasing concerns about the materials that have been produced at the national level, as well as the fact that the American Girl Scouts give $1 million a year to the international organization, which also unfortunately, promotes in several parts of the world legalization of abortion as well as contraceptives. So we had some problems. Now, that said, I love our local Girl Scout leaders. They're some of the most incredible women, and they've done great and heroic work in trying to help form young women into great leaders. But unfortunately, the anthropology, frankly, that's in a lot of the materials was very contrary to our view of the human person. And you see this very clearly in some of the role models that they hold up for young women, like Margaret Sanger or Betty Friedan, or there was one woman by the name of Josefina Lopez who wrote a play that they refer to in their materials. And if you read that play, it actually, its depiction of marriage is like it's an enslavement. So we felt that those types of Gloria Steinem, others like that, these are not the role models that we want to hold up to our young women. And, I have to say that Girl Scouts, when we would object to some of these things, like the Josefina Lopez, they removed that from their materials. But at a point, we felt we really don't want to partner with an organization that we're constantly having to monitor what kind of materials they're giving to our young people. And so it was part to move away from them, but also we saw an opportunity to move to American Heritage Girls, which we think fits much more well with what we're trying to do in terms of forming disciples for Jesus Christ. It's very Christ-centered. It holds up the same virtues that we're trying to promote with young women, and it gives them the life skills and the leadership. But the role models it holds up are really leaders of faith and saints, and not the Margaret Sangers of this world.
Now, Archbishop, I mean, it's not like you just got up one morning and said, hey, we're going to dump the Girl Scouts. I mean, I know that there was a very thorough process behind this decision. Can you just walk us through how long this has been in the works and the steps you took before you arrived at this judgment call?
Yeah, I would say it's been more than 5 years, probably closer to 7 years, that we've been in dialogue with the Girl Scouts. And our youth office ministry, it's headed up by Deacon Dana Niermeyer. They went through a long process where we actually had listening sessions where the Girl Scout, the local leaders here, were invited to them to tell them about some of the concerns that we were seeing and what we wanted to happen at the local level. We also took this to our Presbyteral Council several times and to tell them what the issues were and to get their wisdom and support.
Just for those who may not be familiar with the lingo, the Presbyteral Council would be the group of priests of the Archdiocese who represent all the priests of the Archdiocese.
Right. These are, most of the council are elected by their brother priests, and ours is based on regions and that. We also took it to our pastoral council, which is made up of lay leaders, again, that kind of represent the different regions. So we were getting a lot of input, a lot of counsel with this. And as I said, we tried to particularly reach out to the local Girl Scout leaders with these listening sessions to tell them what our concerns were and to get their feedback. So it's been a long process. And then this dialogue, I talked at one point about an hour-long conversation with the head of Girl Scouts USA. Deacon Dana has met with other levels of their leadership. We eventually wrote to the Bishops' Conference and to the Committee on Marriage and Family expressing our concerns. They did kind of their own review of this, and they expressed some concerns about Girl Scouts, and they said, but ultimately it's up to the local bishop to decide what he wants to do in his diocese.
Now, from the outside, Archbishop, I mean, very well, you're a savvy guy. You know how this is going to play in terms of public opinion. There are going to be those who look at this and say, well, I mean, this is just a kind of reactionary move. It is intended to move the Archdiocese in a more arch-conservative direction. Can you explain why to you this is not a left-right issue, but this is instead an issue of fidelity to Catholic identity?
Yeah, I mean, I think we feel like all of our programming for young people particularly, it has to be consistent and it has to have the same objectives in mind. And our objectives with our young people is to facilitate so that they develop a friendship with Jesus Christ, a relationship with him, and also that they have a love for his bride, the church, and that yes, we want young women to develop their talents fully and to open up all sorts of opportunities for leadership and service for them, but also to realize that marriage and family are very important. and that the whole culture and society is built on the health of marriage and family life. These were some of the things, again, at the national level that were really lacking, we thought, in the materials that are being produced in the Journey series. And Deacon Dana read every piece of material and examined the website. We just thought in the end there were too many red flags, there were too many things that weren't consistent. And American Heritage Girls really provided us with a great alternative for our young women.
So listen, I mean, you know, at one level, you could look at this as a kind of one-off thing that is not connected to broader developments. But I'm wondering, do you think this is an index of something deeper that is going on, that with the progressive secularization of American culture, increasingly, Catholics are going to have to be careful about the kinds of affiliations they enter into, the kinds of relationships that they enter into, in order to make sure that subtly, and perhaps with the best of intentions in the world, you know, we are not sort of compromising our beliefs or allowing ourselves to be drawn into a place that is not really true to what the full sense of what it means to be Catholic.
Yeah, I do think. I think it certainly represents broader cultural issues where we face an increasingly hostile secular culture that really is promoting things very different from the gospel of Jesus Christ and our vision of the human person and the dignity of the human person. So, and I think there's been a conscious effort on the part of those that have this different vision to take over some of these iconic groups like Girl Scouts. You know, we have some concerns about Boy Scouts. They're structured differently. They haven't gone quite down the path that Girl Scouts have yet. But I think a lot of these institutions, those that have this different worldview, have been shrewd in a sense in terms of trying to take them over the leadership of them, and then to reorient them to form young people in ways that are contrary. And it's kind of interesting, some of the reaction, John, that we've gotten is like, how could we dare do this? It's almost like not only do they have a right to have their own vision of the human person and marriage and family life, but it's like we have an obligation to turn our young people over to them to be formed by these values. So, yeah, I think it's part of a much broader issue, and we're going to have to be much more vigilant as Catholics and as Christians with who we partner with and who we invite in, particularly with the formation of our young people.
Now, Archbishop, I can anticipate one objection that you're likely to run into, and probably you have already heard this, which is that you have justified this decision to disaffiliate from the Girl Scouts on the grounds that the organization promotes things such as abortion and contraception. But I can anticipate some Catholics saying, well, okay, but are you going to apply the same standards to your affiliation with organizations that promote things or at least support things such as the death penalty or the arms trade or other elements of Catholic social teaching that don't have anything to do with sexual ethics, but do have to do with the very important concerns for the Church's social tradition and also for Pope Francis in particular. I mean, is that also something that you intend to be vigilant about going forward?
Well, absolutely. Those are important issues as well. But I would say the issues that pertain to family life, to marriage, to the dignity and the sanctity of human life, those do have a priority in our Catholic social teaching. Those are kind of foundational issues that are part of it. Of course, the death penalty is important. I've testified before our state legislature here. Just a little my own personal history. My father was murdered before I was born. My mother was pregnant with me. And I've testified, against the death penalty and how that's not really a solution. That doesn't really help families like mine that were victimized. So it's not that those aren't important issues, but I would say in terms of the magnitude of things, abortion is a much more important issue because by the sheer numbers of innocent lives that are taken every year in our culture and society. So yeah, those are important issues. We want our young people to be formed with the mind of the church in all of these areas. But I think that the culture war, unfortunately, in many ways in our country it's really one that's come out of the sexual revolution and the different anthropology, the different view of family life and marriage and human sexuality. And those issues, I think, touch most profoundly at our young people. Those are the areas in many ways that they're deeply engaged with at this point in their life. And I think those demand special care and attention.
Well, Archbishop, I would love to keep talking to you about all of this, but I know you need to go. But let me ask you this. Can we book a date now? The next time KU wins a national basketball championship, you and I can be on the next day to do the post-game analysis. Is that something you'd be willing to do?
Absolutely, absolutely. It'll be in 2018, I think, so.
God, I hope so. I really thought they had it nailed this year.
Yeah, we had to put extra counselors on at Catholic Charities after the Jayhawks lost.
Yeah, well, what you have to do is launch some kind of novena during March Madness. Okay, I don't know if you have that going right now, but if you don't, we definitely need it.
I've actually been given a rosary that's a KU rosary where the Our Father beads are little basketballs. So.
Can I get one of those? I mean, the next time I'm in Kansas City, can I swing by the Chancery and pick one of those up?
Oh, absolutely, John. We'll get one for you.
All right. Outstanding. Well, listen, Archbishop Joseph Naumann, thank you so much for being willing to sit down and talk with us today. And our prayers are with you. We will certainly be watching how this situation plays out. You have been watching A Drink with John on the Crux YouTube channel and in other venues. We will continue to bring you the best in Catholic news, analysis, and commentary, so stay with us. Until next time, thanks for watching, and we will talk to you soon.